I wonder if your dad can paint that.
Wait, what?
Hey everybody, welcome to the Story Studio podcast. Had a little Dave, you want to go to the YouTube video and catch us a tiny little bit. Actually, out of context, it doesn't make any sense.
I think we can circle back. I'm kind of curious.
Dave's something cool.
Dave, what is your something cool? Let's start right there.
I got nothing. You didn't tell me we're going to have to do something cool. You guys go and I'll think of something.
Okay, I'll give you a hint. It has something to do with my mom. No? Okay. Anyone else have anything cool? I know Niamh does because she was all excited about her last one.
Something cool's on the last 20 episodes we recorded and nobody would let me share it.
Yes, but Niamh's choking on her tongue. Niamh's choking on her tongue.
No, I need someone else to go.
Are you still laughing?
You guys want to restart this episode? Maybe we should restart this episode.
No, I like starting our Brain Trust episode with just hysterics on Niamh's part. That's amazing. All right, so Bonnie. Oh my gosh, she's still losing her.
No, I'm good.
Oh, you are good. Okay, do you have something cool?
Yes, I have something cool. But okay, so I was trying to think earlier today about something cool. And I was like, well, goddamn, I've been watching all this stuff with my kids lately. Like, they're 8 and 10. So what I can watch with my kids is never something that I consider cool. So I was like, well, we did watch this one show that was
It does get better. It does get better.
Right? So, no, we did watch one show that was kind of watchable. And I was like, okay, so for those of you out there who are in that position, I thought it would be really helpful to share. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily recommend you guys watch this, but for people with kids, I watched a show with them called Nowhere Boys, and it's an Australian TV show, and the premise is that there's like these 3 school kids, they're teenagers, who go off on a field trip.
And they get murdered.
And then they make their way back to the town and discover that the town is altered, but only in the way that they don't exist. So their families are there. Everything else is the same. The only difference is that they have never existed.
It's the story of my middle school.
But I really, really like it. And I think it's pretty much uniquely watchable in that, in different like non-American cultures, kids have a little bit more of a grown-up sensibility. And that's something that I found, living here in Ireland, like the kids grow up fast. And if they don't, they make sure that they do. They go, oh, that one's too sensitive. Let's, let's make sure that they're a little bit older, So, I really like that it's watchable, but it's still good for kids. So it's kind of like an adventure kind of show. What is going to happen to these boys? And they have to go on sort of a quest to figure out what happened and how they can undo it. But we ended up watching 3 seasons of it, and it's actually watchable. So for those of you with kids, that's my something cool.
A ringing endorsement. It's actually watchable.
It's actually watchable. You know what, though? When you have young kids, like, actually watchable is super awesome sometimes.
I know, because I'm like, wow, I can be with my kids, like, bonding over TV, and I don't want to, stick pins in my eyes. And that is huge for me. Like, so I'm like, great, we can bond over story, which is something that I love. I can't wait till we can watch, normal TV together. It's going to be great.
How old are your kids?
Mine are 8 and 10, but mine do watch. They would tend to watch a little older than their ages. Like they think Jurassic Park is the funniest thing ever.
Oh, okay. Have you tried Lost in Space on Netflix?
Yeah, we watched Lost in Space. That was pretty good.
Yeah, that seems like a really good family show. Like
my son was bored by it.
Really? It's got
Yeah.
a big old robot with like.
He doesn't like fiction.
I was a little bored by it. I found it was like it's a little too family.
But when you're looking for family content, like it's better than average family content by a lot, I think. But it's funny because when you do have young kids, you find yourself making some excuses. Like all of a sudden, you could be really into like a CGI movie with like long-ass key scenes, and like talking birds. If just for example, you could be like, "Wow, that was a good movie," and I really like the minute-long pissing scene.
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Which, if you're not, a father of a young child, you might not
You mentioned how confused Dave's algorithms must be. Well, this guy likes The Fountain and the Angry Birds movie.
No, he doesn't like the Angry Birds movie. He only rewinds that one scene over and over.
You know what's funny? I was walking with my son. This is my something cool. I'm walking with my son every day. So we were walking, and I asked him, I said, do you remember seeing the Angry Birds movie with me? He's like, yeah.
You wouldn't stop laughing when the bird was peeing, Daddy.
Well, I asked him, I said, do you remember the scene that you were cracking up at? And he's like, what? And I said, the bird peeing.
He's like, that wasn't me. That was
he didn't remember it. Well, the reason it was so funny is because it's the first time he actually laughed in a movie theater with me. And it was just such a hearty laugh that, you know, that pure laugh of a child is just fucking cracking up. So, fuck you. I wouldn't have laughed if I was on my own. That would have been funny though if I was the only person in there, just laughing my ass off. Naked.
Okay, Bonnie. Wait, Johnny, you said you're out, right?
Well, no, I came up with one.
Oh, cool. What you got?
It's not ideal because it's not like I've had a bunch of something noteworthy or intriguing rather than something actually cool. And so this is just like I was scrambling to try and figure out what I've seen lately because I guess it's been movies a lot. But I watched did you guys see The Lighthouse?
No, it's high on my list though.
It's that's a weird movie, and I respected sort of some of the choices that they made, even though it's not. You know what it is? It's like
it's not super accessible.
It's what Bonnie said about something else. I forget what it was. Where it's like I appreciated it, I think, more than I enjoyed it. It is probably the single most masculine movie to come out in years. Like it's dripping with testosterone. It's just these two angry, grizzled sea dogs who just fight and drink and beat off, and it's just like constant. But it's shot. Yeah, they're always masturbating. It's shot in black and white and it's square, which is really kind of interesting. And it's just weird and trippy. And
yeah, Haley really wants to see it, and Cindy actively doesn't. And
yeah, I don't know that I would say that it was a good movie, but it was interesting.
Well, you know what you said that about was, and I just watched it this last week, was Uncut Gems.
Yeah,
which you didn't like, and I was glad that you didn't like it. Actually, I think it was Bonnie I was talking about with this. I was glad that you didn't like it because it made me like it more. Because I went into it expecting to just be like, "Oh, I don't like this," because I respect your opinion, and you know, and I don't like Adam Sandler, but I like it when Adam Sandler, and I don't like Adam Sandler movies. I think it's only maybe 3
it wasn't his performance. You know what it is? The movie was done well. Like I thought his performance was actually great.
Yeah.
I thought that the script was very good. I thought everything was good. I just didn't like it. I was just like, these people, he's intentionally unlikable.
Yeah, that's totally
doing, but I just didn't care.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And I agree with everything that you're saying, but still I couldn't help but really appreciate the craftsmanship of that movie. And I was really willing to just watch it just because it's one of those that was talked about enough, and I knew there were some innovative things, so I just kind of wanted to see what the fuss was about. But I ended up enjoying it more than I expected to, but I didn't enjoy the things that Johnny didn't enjoy about it. I agree with everything Johnny's saying. I just thought that the craftsmanship was enough to like, it gave me I'll never watch it again, but I'm really glad that I did watch.
I respect that he is able to do that. Like it's impressive that Adam Sandler, who's usually like shoo-ba-doo-ba-doo, is able to be a serious actor. And I actually have reluctantly finally come around on Shia LaBeouf too. That guy's a pretty good actor. He just has this kind of douchey aura about it.
Have you seen Honey Boy yet?
I have, but you know what? I've decided I don't like movies just about people. Like it's just like that's just about him and his dad. We saw the Peanut Butter Falcon too.
All movies about people?
No, just about people. So if there's no twist in the storytelling, there's nothing sci-fi or WTF or anything, or Angry Birds in it. That was just like, you know, a drama about him and his dad. And then we saw the Peanut Butter Falcon, which is a drama as well, and it's very sweet. But I was just like,
hero parade. Bored.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked Honey Boy a lot, but I do like that kind of small personal movie. Always have. So anyway, Bonnie, do you have something cool?
Yeah, my something cool is the first season of The Great. I saw it. I just decided to try an episode while I was eating lunch one day, and I thought it was going to be based on Catherine the Great's life, but what it is, it's actually a total reimagining of her coming to the throne in Russia as a comedy, and almost nothing in it is true. And as I was watching the first episode, it was funny, but then it was kind of getting darker and more uncomfortable, but then I was still laughing. And the whole time I was watching this first episode, I was like, why do they make this? Like, what are they trying to accomplish with it? And then I got to the very last scene, the first episode, and I was like, oh shit, this is going to be amazing.
Oh, wow. That's a great lead up.
It's so dark and so funny and so dramatic. And there's like so much fear and pain in it. But also you're laughing all the way through every episode, except the last one, which made me cry really hard. So it was like a really fascinating emotional journey that I've never quite seen before.
And Elle Fanning is Catherine the Great, right?
I don't know. I don't know her name.
Oh, okay. Yeah, she has. That's Dakota Fanning's sister.
Oh.
All right, my something cool is I've actually done this something cool before, but for a few reasons, which we'll talk about in this episode, actually, we won't have something cools for a while. And so I'm going to do this. I'm just doubling down on this something cool because it's really good. The Leftovers. I really, really like this show.
He's not talking about a show. Oh.
Yeah, I realize that all of my affection for J.J. Abrams was really misplaced, and it belongs to Damon Lindelof, first of all. And I've never had the issues with Lost that people. I understand the issues people have with Lost, but I think that's an issue between. That's with the problems they have are actually with ABC. Damon Lindelof did his best, you guys. Like, it's very hard to deal with a network who wants 22 episodes a season for 7 seasons when you have a 3-season plan.
And personally, I liked the way Lost came out, even with studio interference. I know I'm the minority.
Yes, I am too. I know how hard what they did was, and I think that I just have so much more faith in Damon Lindelof as a storyteller, seeing what he got to do with HBO when they let him do his 3-episode show with Leftovers, or his 1-season show with Watchmen, which got a bajillion Emmy nominations this week, you guys. Oh my God, HBO just killed it with the Watchmen. And that is the one show so far that we as a company are like, we got to watch this and talk about it because there's so much there. So his way of storytelling is really hitting me. I really love what he's doing. And it's funny, I really like the score of that. And there's just this beautiful piece of music that's called The Departure. And it's perfectly
Max Richter.
Yes, it's perfectly used. Cindy actually really likes that composer, and she listens to him with like yoga, but I didn't know who he was. And then she's like, oh my God, this is Max Richter, when we were watching the show. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. But what's funny is I started writing to it, and there's this certain note that comes on during that thing. And I'm so trained. I'm like writing, and I'm thinking, I need to write something profound and thematically relevant right now. Because every time those notes come, and it's just at the perfect point in the story. And I just really love how that guy uses music and tone and mystery boxes, but the mystery boxes are done in a much more elegant way than now that I have spent some time with Damon Lindelof, and I can see the divisions between what I was giving credit to J.J. Abrams. I think J.J. Abrams, I like his style or his philosophy of mystery boxes, but I feel like he does it very awkwardly and like blunt, just brute force. It's about the gimmick of the mystery box instead of the elegance of the mystery box and really knowing why it matters. And I feel like Damon Lindelof isn't giving me, hey, this is really cool. Like, I mean, he does all of that. Like, okay, this elephant is hooked up to the memory machine. Amazing, right?
I think he's also more patient.
Yes. He's very patient.
If your wife likes Max Richter, she'll like Ludovico Einaudi. I'm probably butchering his name, but he's a composer that's just fucking beautiful.
Well, I'll tell her, or I'll ask her if she's seen it. But anyway, I think anybody who really likes Dave said it, patient storytelling where the
Did
story.
you watch it all? Where
No,
you
no. The one I saw last night, which is why it felt very lost actually. It was the 8th episode of the 2nd season. The one, I think you'll probably know what episode it is by the title. An International Assassin is the name of the episode.
I do not freaking remember the title. I have to rewatch.
Okay, do you remember when he takes the poison?
Yes. Okay.
It's the episode after that.
Okay.
All right, and I'm just like, I love seeing things where I'm like, I want to write something that's good someday, you know, where I really feel inspired to do better than I'm doing. Like, and Leftovers, like I'm watching one episode a night with Cindy and Haley while Ethan's like, can I get the fuck out of here and go play Madden? Like it's our show.
I don't want to watch people crying.
And it's just every night I'm like, this is great storytelling. So anyway, Leftovers.
You know, the one thing that we always do a really bad job at, and it's
introducing the show,
cringeworthy, is introducing the show, because I'm just thinking about like somebody coming in and they just listened to us talk for 15 to 20 idle minutes and they're like, well, why am I still listening to this show? Because they haven't even told me what it's about. Really wish I'd have done that at the opening.
That's what the title is for.
No. I'm glad you didn't. That's a perfect segue into our conversation today, because we're going to be doing that kind of thing way better for the foreseeable future, for a long time.
You know, good reframe. I'm not buying it, but good reframe.
We're going to talk aimlessly better, you're saying?
No.
More of this.
Our aimless talk will be neatly packaged into containers that are
mystery boxes.
I actually do want to say, I meant to say this last time, but let me wait, because I want to introduce.
Oh, look at his mystery box.
Let's say what we're talking about, because what I was about to say isn't going to make any damn sense until we know what we're talking about. So this is
so this is officially, like, if you were to be listening to this live, which is impossible, and well, actually, we got a few people listening to live. Hi, Sterling and Stone. If you're listening to this live, then you know it's a Friday at our normal podcasting time. But we're not, I don't know, I guess what we end up doing is we come on and we talk, and it hasn't really had a lot of value either for listeners for a long time, or for us, honestly, for a long time. It's something that we do as a bonding agent. But if you go and you look at all of our episodes, they're just kind of there, and we don't really have any categorization to them. But we're going to start, because we learn, I mean, we were just talking about all the TV that we watch, and it's very packaged. It's in seasons. And even if we're learning something, we go look at it as a unit of information. And we've totally lost that. And if you look at the early days of our podcast, we were really good at figuring stuff out and then sharing it with the audience, because we were learning at such a fast pace. And we would have a guest on, and we would have that guest on really because we wanted to learn something. Really, Johnny in those days, Johnny was hustling the most guests. He was very curious. He's like, okay, how do we sell books? We got these books out there. How are we going to sell them? And so the podcast really was, in the very first days, you know, Dave and I were publishing. So Johnny wanted to kind of figure out our mojo. You know, how are you guys writing so fast? How are you publishing? If I have a podcast with these guys, then every single week I'm going to get to what I'm doing better, right? Which is where he is right now. There's something else that he's dabbling with, and every week he wants to know how he can get better. And so the podcast was that mechanism back then. But as the company changed, as we went left and right, and we just kind of meandered, and the podcast became a place for us to meander. And that was actually okay, because we handled that in a few different ways. We handled it first with Write, Publish, Repeat, which was our promise to the audience. Hey, look, we know we're off topic. We know that we ramble, but here's our business model in a book, and you can copy it. And even though we meandered in the book and, you know, rambled in the book a little bit or a lot of it, that was still our style, and it was fine. Then we did things like Fiction Unboxed, and we got more and more removed and more insular. Like, this is our thing. We talk to each other.
We moved more away from doing and started incorporating a lot of teaching, basically.
Yeah. And so we're not, and then we moved too far where we were just doing, but we were afraid to talk about the things that we were doing because that had harmed us before. And
right. So all that sharing in the early days helped a lot of people but not us.
Right. And the ratios never worked for us in the same ways that, like, Mark Dawson is a great example. Mark Dawson has handled his education versus fiction career exponentially better than we did. And he waited, like, he never cross-polluted. So he had substantially more fiction readers and a really focused funnel, so that when he confused it with, you know, some nonfiction listeners, it didn't really matter. We did such a solid job of bonding with our listeners that more of them were interested in our fiction, but we didn't do as good a job with our fiction and making sure that those funnels were clear and that the audiences were big enough to where when the pools got mixed, they weren't actually polluted. And so that was our fault. And it took us a long time to catch on to what we were doing. And then it took us even longer to course correct. And then the last, I want to say 2 years has been really kind of amazing, where we've just kind of been, I don't know, shielded from the rest of the world and just moving really fast, learning really fast, figuring things out really fast. And
if it's been the last 2 years, then there's been an exponential ramp up, I would say, in the last 6 months.
Right. And the last 6 months, I think we have our identity. We know who we are. And more importantly for you listening, we know how we can share. Because it's never that we don't want to give value. Like, we think we're actually positioned to give as much, if not more, value than anyone else in the nonfiction space. I mean, for indie publishing, obviously. I don't think we have a lot to offer quantum mechanics. But when it comes to indie publishing, I think we not only have a tremendous amount to offer, we're going to continue to have more and more and more. We're going to have more perspective, more success, more interactions with the industry, and we're just going to be able to share. And we want to share, and we want to elevate the community, but we don't want to do it where the time spent is too heavy on us or the financial impact is too heavy. And so we've figured that out. And one of the ways that we figured that out is with the way that we're going to organize this podcast. So going forward, we're going to group things a little bit differently. And all of the old podcasts from the Story Studio podcast will be season 0. And this is the last episode of season 0. The next episode that you're going to hear, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment, the next episode that you're going to hear will be season 1. It'll be episode 1 of season 1. And everything going forward will be seasonal. That doesn't mean we might not have bonus episodes, because I think it would be cool to get on and just like, hey, check in, you know, what is something cool? And we just talk about something. Or like, imagine if we were in our seasonal flow and we were in between seasons 2 and 3 when COVID happened. Of course, we would want to take a break to do a special episode and talk about that. We don't want to be so removed that we can't be responsive, but we do want to get ahead of the game. And this is a really great way to do that. So the purpose of this episode is to give some closure to what's come before, to talk a little bit about what's coming, and to kind of talk about the structure of what we have going on. And the 5 guests, or I guess the 5 hosts that you have right now, it's very intentional. So this is actually our brain trust. There's me and Johnny and Dave, whom you know, and Niamh and Bonnie, who you've been getting to know and will get to know even more. There will be some combination of us on all of the shows to come, but not necessarily all 5 of us. It will be more of a rotating cast, and we're going to do a much better job of gathering and sharing information. And I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to give it to Niamh. Niamh, why don't you talk a little bit about the first season that we have coming on, and just anything that you want to add to that.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Well, first, I'm really excited to jump in with Bonnie and help, be one of the rotating hosts. I also I love you guys, and I love the banter and everything that you guys have going. So I just want to make sure no one's like, oh no, all that fun banter is going. They'll still be the guys. So I think that's all safe. So yeah, what I'm most excited about in terms of the seasonal content is the ability to really focus in onto one particular aspect of something. self-publishing and storytelling is a massively enormous topic. So you might be someone who's like, you know what, those episodes Bonnie is on, I'm taking copious notes. I'm super excited. I just want more, more, more. Or you might have been someone who was like, if I come on and I'm talking about marketing, you're like, oh, cool. This is marketing and commercialism and all the stuff I love. And so we want to be able to kind of go a little bit deeper into those topics without creating, 3-hour-long seasons of things. So I'm really excited about the first season. And the first season is us taking a moment to sort of just check in. And it's us checking in, in terms of what we're doing, but also checking in with other people within the industry. So the first season is called The State of the Industry. And it really is to kind of go around, have these conversations with people who are leading the way, who have their finger on the pulse of what's happening right now, and also looking towards the future of what's going to be happening in the storytelling space and in self-publishing in particular. And I mean, we've already at this point recorded a few of these because we wanted to make sure that we were able to get onto everyone's schedules. We have most of the top people you would think of in the self-publishing industry we're going to be having on the show. So they're in
season one.
Yes, for season one. And they're really deep and interesting conversations where we're really taking the pulse of what happened before, what's happening right now, and what's working right now, and what do we see coming in the future. So that's, I think we're going to have like something like 15 to 18 episodes. I'm not sure exactly where it's going to fall, but it's a lot of episodes. It's going to be a really solid season. And that's what's starting next week.
We've already recorded a few, and it's really fun to not only be doing these, but to see the immediate effects. So for example, do we want to leave all the guests a surprise, or should I be specific about the one I'm going to talk about right now?
I think well, now that you said it, I think you better name drop there.
Yeah,
okay, all right,
okay. I think letting people know what's coming is a good thing. Don't cock tease it.
Yeah, okay. So we had Becca Syme on a podcast a couple days ago. And that was just a wonderful, wonderful. She was actually, was she the first? She was the first. She may not be the first to air, but she was the first we recorded. And I mean, we had our live stoners were listening, and it was lit up. Like, we went long. It was more than an hour, and it could have gone much, much longer. Like, it was a really great, robust episode, which was awesome. It's awesome if you're a listener. But for us, it's great too, because we want to be inspired. We want to have action. And right after, immediately, we're all taking this test and we're figuring out how to optimize our creativity. And it was a really great episode. I imagine being able to hear it would be great. But for us, being able to participate, that was always the dream of the podcast. That was always the promise. And we lost that along the way. The fact that we're going to get smarter and then we're going to share. And so we all scale together. And this is a way to, Niamh's right. It is, if you kind of think of somebody in the space, they'll probably be on this first season. And we're going to record all of them. And then we're going to be smart enough to have like an episode that we record afterwards where we introduce everything, and not in a cock-teasy kind of way, but in, hey, here's stuff we've already done. So there's no promises. Hey, you guys, we're going to have blah, blah, blah kind of content for you. We're actually in the middle of doing this, and it will be coming out weekly really soon. And it's going to be great. And it's going to be great in a way that serves you and serves us in a way that we can continue to serve you. So it feeds itself.
And then
So you go ahead, John.
Sorry, this is just because this is what I was going to say earlier. Is I meant to mention this is we have recorded a handful of these. We've recorded a bunch of podcasts in the past week, but a couple weeks, and I just it's awesome. Like, it really is. So I wanted to just give props to Niamh and maybe Jen. I don't know how involved she is in planning and putting all this together, because it's like, oh, this is what it takes to have a good show. Because in the past, coming on 10 minutes beforehand and what's going on this week? What should we talk about? And then meandering didn't surprisingly get the job done. But these shows have been focused, and they keep going long because there's too much information. So it's not like we're just, walking all around in circles and they go long. It's because the conversation.
These are going long, and there's no something cool. right?
No half hour of chatting about
no meandering for half an hour. We start and then we go all the way to the end. It's been.
Oh, you're saying this is us actually trying?
Yes, that's it. That's exactly it. Right.
Oh my, what a change!
No, we've got a system,
I don't think I'm ready for this.
Management. We've got things in Notion, y'all. So no, it's great. We like, no kidding. There's been, here are all of our guests coming on, and you can click on the roster ahead of time and see these are the things we're going to talk about, and they're individualized questions because they're individualized people. And but what we are trying to get over this first season is exactly that. You know, an idea, a bird's eye view of what the industry looks like right now, but more importantly, where it's going. Because I think that it's very easy as an indie author to just kind of get in a loop. You do the same things, you forget why you're doing them. You're doing it because that guy over there is doing it. And it's really great to just ask a lot of questions. And I think that if you look at the landscape of podcasts, it's nothing like when we started. When we started, there was nothing. Like it was a barren landscape, which was why we could get the domain self-publishing podcast, right? That was us being keyword driven. We knew what we were doing back then. And so it's changed. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of education around self-publishing that there wasn't back then. And so we don't want to do the stuff that everybody else is doing because we're not going to do that as well. We've always been best at being outliers. We've always been best at being fringe and trying things that no one else is trying. And if you look at our 2-year roadmap, we've got so much shit that no one else is trying, and we want to be able to share that. And talking to the industry, you know, you could go listen to any of those podcasts and you're not going to see guests on our show over the next season that you don't see anywhere else. We're not promising exclusivity. What we are promising is that we're bringing all those people in one place together to have kind of a collective conversation that you can hear in order. Because there's a difference between hearing, you know, Joanna or Mark Dawson or Mark Lefebvre, Becca, all these different people talking in isolation. Oh, I heard Joanna's episode here, or I heard, you know, Mark's episode here, versus I'm listening to all 15 of these people in a row talk about what it is like right now with perspective. That is almost like a masterclass. It's a course. I'm getting what's fresh and relevant and where things are going forward, except you don't have to click here or buy it on any kind of card or worry about a countdown timer.
We don't do courses. Yeah. Courses are not our thing anymore.
It's not our thing. So it really is just the very best information that we can gather for ourselves and share with you.
Yeah, so I know we're going to talk a lot about season 1 in the next week's episode, so we won't belabor the point too much. So I think it'd be great to just touch on season 2. We have at least 4 seasons already totally pre-planned, but because we have an actual drinking game for calendar changes within the studio, I think it would be maybe a little early to be sharing all the seasons, but I do want to touch on season 2 because season 2 we've also been recording. We've been recording a lot of that this week.
It's fair to talk about things that we've already recorded.
Yeah, we're already on this. This one is definitely happening, and this one is really special. And I'm just going to give it a little intro and then pass it over to Bonnie. But the season 2 is called Core Curriculum. And this is about craft, and all of these episodes are with Bonnie. So anytime Bonnie has been on the podcast, the audience always has like enormously positive feedback. People are always asking, oh, I want more Bonnie. They want to know where they can learn more from her. They want to get all of their craft knowledge from Bonnie. And so Bonnie has been actually working on a series of books on craft, but also this podcast is going to sort of map across all of the things you want to know from start to finish. So, we're going to start out at premise and work our way all the way through to, I think, self-editing. But Bonnie, I'll pass it over to you to talk a little bit more about what people can expect in season 2.
Thanks, Steve. This series of books is actually closing a big loop for me, and then I hope it will close a big loop for people who are reading it. And when I first started working with you guys, my goal was not just to learn more about the marketing side of thing and indie publishing and how you guys are doing all these groundbreaking things, but it was also to understand the kind of commercial potential that you guys are always thinking about, and how to actually bake it into the craft so that someone like me who is not marketing oriented and who doesn't want to be thinking about that as they're writing the story can start with the brainstorming and have commercial potential baked into their premise and into their characters and into their world, so that you can just answer the questions on the worksheet and brainstorm your story the way you usually would, with like a few tweaks because you've got a few different brainstorming questions, and just write it the way you would always write it and end up with something that, like, even if maybe it's not the most commercial thing you've ever written and maybe you're not writing to market, but whatever story you are trying to tell, you're going to have the maximum ability to market that particular story once it's done.
I feel like what you're trying to do with the core curriculum is it's the fishing thing, right? You don't want to tell somebody, give somebody fish. You want to teach them how to fish so they can go do it over and over. And a lot of the craft stuff is like, hey, follow this formula, follow this beat structure or whatever it is. And what you're saying is, I want to teach you how to always think about it so that you're never thinking about it. Right? Yes. So that it just becomes part of your storytelling DNA. What is it? What are these basics that I have? So whether I'm always percolating on that, I know what it is that makes something commercial, or at least gives it commercial potential. And that just becomes part of the way I tell a story, instead of, oh, I have to consult my checklist.
Yes. And like, I make tons of checklists and protocols and worksheets, but I don't do them and say, okay, now I'm a slave to the checklist. I always see them like as a training tool. It's like, I'm always trying to figure out what are the key decisions that I need to internalize so that I can actually do this thing. So like, everything I've ever taught is designed to be thrown away at some point because you don't need it anymore. Like, you should graduate. You should never be stuck in a system forever. It should always be something that you make your own. So that's really my goal.
I love that. I love like scheduling for obsolescence. This is great. So yeah, that and that is for sure coming. That is not something that we're talking about. That's something, I mean, literally after we are done recording this one, we're recording another episode for season 2. That's how ahead we are at Sterling and Stone these days, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, this is coming, and I am really excited about it because it's really fun to have the energy back and to know that, you know, Johnny and Dave are having a good time, and that Bonnie and Niamh are excited, and that everybody in the company is excited about the
Dave was not having a good time yesterday.
No, he was not.
We were blowing party favors in his face, and he was looking ready to murder.
That's true. He was ready for murder.
I was channeling Grumpy Cat.
So we should, I don't think we said this, but we won't always have necessarily the same crew going forward. I think that for at least the immediate future, we're trying as best we can to have the same nucleus. But I know that sort of the long-term thing is like, we could involve even more of the studio, and maybe, you know, different people attend. So should we sort of introduce like each person's function and who we are a little bit more? Because it won't, you know, like there was one a little while ago that I wasn't on, and I intend to be on as many as I can, but sometimes that won't happen and they'll just record without me. And the same is true of anybody else.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea. So you will notice a few of these episodes in the coming seasons. There will be some without Dave, and there's a really funny reason for that. So, so we've been scheduling these at noon and at 3. But that's too big of a stretch for Dave to be awake, because he's either staying awake for the 12
It is a lot
episode.
to ask somebody to be up at noon and 3 in the afternoon.
Right. No, I do realize
one
that.
or the other, Sean.
I wasn't trying to be inconsiderate when Niamh and I were coming up with the plan. We kind of figured that was an appropriate stretch. But then in the podcast channel, we see from Dave, well, I can be at the 12 o'clock one or the 3 o'clock one. But you can't expect me at both.
But not
when do you want me on?
Now he did show up on a couple of them, so I think he'll be in there a healthy amount of times. And it's funny because this actually shows. So Dave is more inclined to be on a Bonnie episode than on a State of the Industry episode, but that's great. That's actually totally fine.
And I'm up right now, by the way.
He is. And it's almost 3 o'clock. It's almost 4 o'clock his time, which I think is
But you were
2:30 in the
sleeping
morning.
till like
I'm not
noon.
really sure. I'm not good at Dave math. I don't know, but
I've been up since 10 last night.
I think if we scheduled at midnight and 3 in the morning, we could have him all the time.
Yeah, all the time.
That's
every
true.
day.
But also, fuck that.
Do the other people in your house
Not my
know that
fault. You don't
live
have a
there?
normal schedule. What's that?
Do the other people in your house know that you live there?
I try to avoid that as much as possible. That's why I'm up all night, so I can actually get work done.
Do you think if you left for like a week, how many days would it take before they notice you were gone?
Oh, my son would notice like within 10 minutes.
Oh. So 10 minutes for your son and like a year for your wife?
About that, yes.
Awesome.
Well, she might notice, but I don't think she'll mind for at least a few weeks.
All right. Okay, so is there anything that we want to talk about to close out this episode?
The introductions that Johnny just introduced.
Thank you. See, that's why
right.
you
The
guys.
thing we just talked about.
Okay, so I'll start as I'm the really flighty one that can keep like weirdly like one thing in my head at a time and 100. So I don't know quite how that works. But according to my Clifton strengths, which you'll see that when we talk to Becca Syme, I'm ideas first. And so that kind of checks. So anyway, I'm the idea guy.
And it should go without saying that Sean is, Sean's the fearless leader. Sean's running the company, basically. I no longer am. So I am now I don't know. I guess I'm kind of back to where I was, really. Like at the very beginning, I was like, hey, let me hop in and be an author and I'll do my thing and you guys do your thing. And now it's like, well, I'm kind of doing that, but I'm still, collaboratively writing with Sean.
Yeah, there's a lot of full circle stuff here.
Yeah, there really is. And I'll get into more and more interesting things, hopefully, I think, and contribute new perspectives. But yeah, I'm just same Johnny as always, basically, but much less businessy.
Less intense, really.
Not less intense. Although, have I gotten less intense? Because I feel like I've chilled in general over the past few years.
I think you're less intense.
Okay, good.
I think you're less intense.
Okay,
I think you're more Dave.
I think I'm more Dave too.
You are. You're like becoming a blend of you and Sean.
We're gonna meld into one.
Especially in the gift that is 2020, I find myself often feeling like Dave.
If I can get Dave a little more Johnny, I think we're in a really good place, actually.
And then, Dave, you and I could do a Donnie and Marie sort of, you're a little bit country and I'm a little bit rock and roll.
Yeah, I like that.
Awesome. Well, I'm Niamh. I guess I'm in charge of the marketing most of the time, but I also do a lot of wrangling. Is kind of how I like.
Yeah, I don't think calling you marketing is quite.
No, you're like you're almost in my old role, kind of like you're Sean's ideation partner.
Oh, for sure, that old role. So the visionary integrator role, Niamh is definitely the integrator in that relationship.
For me, my favorite thing is strategy. Like, so I'm all about strategy in every way, shape, or form, but I like to do strategy in terms of like, okay, we have this cool idea. How can we make this happen? So like, I'm in my absolute happy place when I find a new tool and I start figuring out what it can do. And then I start going, okay, what features of this can I take and do something absolutely crazy that even the creators of this tool wouldn't have thought of? So that's kind of what I like to do.
I also heard you're kind of competitive.
I'm a little competitive. I'm a lot competitive, but I'm mostly.
And I don't think you're just implementing. You're also helping dream up these things.
Oh yeah, she's a great. Niamh, probably
I was gonna say like a Sean's right hand, but that implies like an assistant relationship. So it's not that. It's more like
she's a business designer. Niamh is one of the best business designers I've ever worked with, and that is saying a lot. Like I've worked with some great business thinkers, and Niamh is right up there. Every day Niamh is to the structural side of the business what Bonnie is to the story side of the business, really.
Yeah, basically, Sean and Niamh are the new Sean and Johnny as far as the business parts of the company are concerned.
Yeah, that's accurate.
And Dave is the new Dave.
Time to introduce Bonnie.
Bonnie. Say, I'm the Niamh of story, and then you're done. It's really efficient. So, yeah,
there we go. I'm the Niamh of story.
Dave remains
Dave of
Dave.
Daves. I'm the Dave of Daves.
There you go. All right. Well, so I guess the idea was just to kind of introduce what's going on so you guys know. What is everybody expecting? Like the very next episode, we're going to begin with the season one, which is
next
the
episode
industry.
will be episode 1 of season 1 of the state of the industry, and it'll be great.
And don't let seasons bog you down. It's just, I mean, I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe we're still airing them every week, more or less, and you can just listen every week. So you don't really need to think in terms of seasons, but it means that, like for season one, even if you're not paying attention to it, you'll just have a whole bunch in a row that are state of the industry, and then season 2 is something else entirely.
Yeah, it's so that the learning is grouped, actually, and it's better for you than for us because we're recording all of this out of order. But if I was listening to this, it's kind of awesome. You get 15 episodes in a row with like hard hitting industry stuff, and then probably 10 episodes, I'm not really sure, in a row of just hard craft stuff where the episodes will feed off of each other. So it's great to go from premise to character to whatever, and really internalize that stuff. So I'm really excited about what this will do for the community, because I think that when we were at our best, we had a really positive impact on the landscape. And I don't think that we've had that impact in a long time. And I want to be a positive force. And I think that that's what we're doing again. And I'm just really proud of the work that we're doing. And I really hope that it impacts you if you're listening to this.
Hardcore craft.
There you go. So stay tuned. You see the next one next, shockingly. And thanks for listening, everybody. And we'll talk to you next time.
Adios.
Bye.